Chapter 1. Distraction is the New Poverty. Distraction is not a weakness. It is not a personality trait. It is not something you were born with. Distraction is a condition, and like any condition, it has consequences. Most people think poverty is about money. They're wrong. The real poverty of the modern world is attention poverty. You can have information and still be poor. You can have opportunities and still be poor. You can have access, tools, connections, and still be poor. Because if your attention is fragmented, your results will be fragmented. That's the truth. Distraction keeps you busy but unproductive. You move all day and go nowhere. You do a lot but finish little. You feel tired yet accomplished nothing that actually moves your life forward. You scroll, you react, you consume, you comment, you plan, you talk, but you don't execute. And execution is the only thing that changes outcomes. You have a choice. You can stay busy and feel important, or you can stay focused and become effective. That's the key. Distraction creates the illusion of progress. You feel like you're learning. You feel like you're staying informed. You feel like you're working on yourself. But look at the results. Look at the calendar. Look at the months that passed. Nothing moved. That's not bad luck. That's not lack of intelligence. That's distraction doing exactly what it's designed to do. What steals your attention steals your future. Repeat that again. What steals your attention steals your future. Every notification is a withdrawal. Every unnecessary conversation is a tax. Every hour spent reacting is an hour you didn't invest. And unlike money, attention never comes back. Successful people understand this early, not intellectually, behaviorally. They don't protect time, they protect focus, because time without focus is useless. Here's the lie you've been told. You need more motivation. You don't. Motivation doesn't fix distraction. Motivation burns out under distraction. You get excited, you start something, then attention scatters, energy leaks, momentum dies. It's not about motivation, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about motivation, it's about discipline. Successful people aren't smarter than you. They aren't more gifted. They aren't more inspired. They are less distracted. That's it. They move faster because they're not constantly stopping. They compound because their attention stays in one direction long enough to produce results. Speed is not rushing. Speed is the absence of interruption. That's the key. Look at your day honestly. How many times do you stop what you're doing? How many times do you check something that doesn't matter? How many times do you let someone else hijack your attention? You don't need their permission to focus. You don't need their approval to go quiet. You don't need to explain why you're unavailable. But you keep explaining, you keep responding, you keep reacting. And reaction is expensive. Reaction keeps you in other people's timelines. Reaction keeps you living in response mode instead of creation mode. Creation requires silence. Creation requires boredom. Creation requires staying with one thing longer than is comfortable. Distraction trains you to escape discomfort. Every time something feels slightly boring, you reach for stimulation. Every time something gets hard, you switch tasks. Every time progress slows, you look elsewhere. That's how potential dies, not with failure, with fragmentation. You have a choice. You can continue to live distracted and wonder why nothing compounds, or you can decide today that your attention is no longer free. That's the shift. Successful people treat attention like currency. They spend it intentionally. They don't waste it on things that don't pay returns. Ask yourself this simple question throughout the day. Is this paying me back? Most things aren't. Most conversations don't. Most content doesn't. Most reactions don't. And that's not pessimism, that's clarity. You don't need to quit the world. You need to stop letting the world enter your mind on demand. Distraction doesn't always look like laziness. Often it looks like busyness. Meetings, messages, emails, news, trends, updates, none of them move the needle. Progress is quiet. Progress is repetitive. Progress is boring. That's why distracted people avoid it. They want stimulation, not results. They want novelty, not mastery. They want movement, not momentum. But momentum only comes from focus held over time. What steals your attention steals your future. Say it again. What steals your attention steals your future. If you feel behind, it's not because you started late, it's because your attention has been divided. If you feel overwhelmed, it's not because there's too much to do, it's because you're doing too many irrelevant things. If you feel tired, it's not because you're working too hard, it's because you're switching too often. Constant switching drains energy. Deep focus restores it. That's the paradox. The more distracted you are, the more exhausted you feel. The more focused you are, the more alive you become. You don't need more hours, you need fewer distractions. That's the discipline. Start small, but start today. One task, one block of time, no interruptions, no checking, no reacting, no explaining, just execution. You'll feel uncomfortable. That's normal. Distraction is an addiction. Focus is a muscle. And like any muscle, it hurts before it grows. You have a choice. Stay distracted and stay average, or reclaim your attention and change your trajectory. Because this is the truth you can't escape. What steals your attention steals your future. You've identified the enemy. Now it's time to stop reacting and start controlling. You understand the cost of distraction. Now let's talk about the habit that keeps you trapped in it. Chapter 2. Stop reacting. Reaction is not progress. Reaction feels productive, but reaction is a trap. Every time your phone lights up, your brain is being trained, not to focus, not to create, but to respond. That training compounds. Notifications condition you to be alert, jumpy, fragmented. They teach you to wait for prompts instead of setting direction. They turn your day into a series of interruptions instead of a single mission. And here's the hard truth. Reaction is not progress. Say it again. Reaction is not progress. You answer messages all day and wonder why nothing moves. You reply instantly and feel important, but you're not effective. You stay connected and slowly lose control of your own agenda. You have a choice. You can keep reacting and feel busy, or you can stop reacting and start directing. That's the key. Every notification trains you to be reactive instead of intentional. It pulls your attention outward. It tells your nervous system that everything else matters more than what you were doing. And once your attention leaves, momentum dies. Momentum requires continuity. Reaction destroys continuity. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to respond later. You don't need their permission to finish what you started. But you keep asking for it anyway. You answer immediately. You explain yourself. You justify your delays. That's not politeness. That's submission. Reaction keeps you living on other people's priorities, not your own goals. Think about that. Every time you react, you're saying yes to someone else's urgency, and every yes steals time from your own objectives. What you react to expands. What you ignore shrinks. That's how attention works. If you don't decide your focus, the world will decide it for you. Repeat it. If you don't decide your focus, the world will decide it for you. The world is loud. It is persistent. It is optimized to interrupt you. If you don't install rules, boundaries, and delays, you will spend your life responding instead of building. Reaction feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels like you're on top of things. But look at the outcomes. You're exhausted. You're behind. You're constantly catching up. Because reaction never leads. Reaction follows. Leaders decide first. Reactors respond last. It's not about speed, it's about direction. You answer fast, but you move nowhere. You respond quickly, but you advance slowly. It's not about responsiveness, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about responsiveness, it's about discipline. Discipline means deciding in advance what deserves your attention. Discipline means delaying response until it aligns with your priorities. Discipline means being unreachable when you need to execute. That makes people uncomfortable. Let them be uncomfortable. You don't need their permission.
Reaction keeps you shallow. It trains surface-level thinking. It rewards immediacy over depth. Depth requires time without interruption. Depth requires saying no to almost everything. That's why so few people achieve it. They're always reachable, always available, always reacting, and always average. You have a choice. You can be available to everyone, or you can be effective for yourself. You cannot be both. Every time you check a notification mid-task, you reset your focus clock. Your brain doesn't bounce back, it reloads. That reload costs energy, it costs clarity, it costs momentum. Do that all day and you end up mentally tired with nothing finished. That's not because you're weak, that's because reaction is draining. Creation is energizing. Reaction is exhausting. That's the difference no one explains. If you feel constantly tired, ask yourself this: how much of my day is reactive? Emails, messages, feeds, news, requests. None of them move your life forward. They keep you occupied. They keep you busy. They keep you distracted. If you don't decide your focus, the world will decide it for you. Successful people decide early. They decide when they check messages. They decide when they respond. They decide what gets ignored. They are not rude, they are disciplined. They understand this truth: attention once lost is hard to recover. You don't need to respond immediately to be respected. You don't need to explain delays to be professional. You don't need to stay plugged in to be relevant. That's fear talking. Fear of missing out. Fear of disappointing others, fear of falling behind. But reaction doesn't protect you from falling behind, it guarantees it, because while you're reacting, someone else is executing uninterrupted. That's the gap. You want a practical shift? Here it is: delay response. Not forever, not dramatically, intentionally. Batch communication. Schedule reaction windows. Protect execution hours. When you're building, you're unreachable. When you're reacting, you react fully, then stop. That boundary alone will change your life, because focus multiplies effort. Reaction divides it. You don't need more effort. You need fewer interruptions. You have a choice. Continue to let every alert dictate your day, or take control and decide what matters first. If you don't decide your focus, the world will decide it for you. Say it again. If you don't decide your focus, the world will decide it for you. Reaction is easy. Reaction is automatic. Reaction is how everyone lives. Progress is deliberate. Progress is uncomfortable. Progress requires ignoring most things. That's why it works. You've learned the cost of distraction. You've seen how reaction keeps you trapped in other people's agendas. Now it's time to remove the clutter that feeds that reaction loop. You stopped reacting. Next, you must simplify. Chapter 3. Clarity comes after elimination, not motivation. Most people are waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel motivated, waiting for clarity to arrive. That wait is the reason they stay stuck. Clarity does not come first. Clarity comes after elimination. That's the key. People don't fail because they lack drive. They fail because their mind is crowded. Crowded with options, crowded with opinions, crowded with inputs. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another speech. You don't need another strategy. You don't need more drive. You need less noise. Say it again. You don't need more drive. You need less noise. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It spikes and crashes. But clarity? Clarity is stable. And clarity is created by subtraction. High performers understand this instinctively. They don't add effort to chaos. They remove chaos first. They subtract people. They subtract habits. They subtract apps. They subtract obligations. Then and only then do they apply effort. That's why their effort works. You have a choice. You can keep adding things to an already cluttered life, or you can remove what doesn't matter and let focus emerge. That's the discipline. Most people are overstimulated and under-directed. They wake up already consuming. They check before they think. They absorb before they decide. Then they wonder why they feel scattered. Noise creates confusion. Confusion kills momentum. You can't think clearly in a loud environment. Mental clutter is no different than physical clutter. If your desk is covered, you can't work. If your calendar is full, you can't move. If your mind is noisy, you can't decide. And decision is everything. Clarity is not found by searching. Clarity is revealed when distractions are removed. That's the truth no one tells you. You don't find yourself, you remove what isn't you. You don't discover purpose, you eliminate interference. You don't need their permission to cut things out. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need to explain why something no longer fits. But you keep explaining, you keep tolerating, you keep holding on, and that's why clarity stays out of reach. It's not about confusion, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about confusion, it's about discipline. High performers don't have better vision, they have fewer inputs. They don't listen to everyone. They don't consume everything. They don't chase every opportunity. They choose one direction. Then they eliminate everything that pulls them away from it. That's the key. Look at your life honestly. How many apps are fighting for your attention? How many people drain your energy? How many habits exist out of convenience, not intention? Every unnecessary input creates noise. Every noise delays clarity. You don't need to quit everything. You need to simplify. Start with elimination. One app, one habit, one commitment. Remove it. Then notice what happens. Your mind slows down. Your thoughts organize. Your priorities become obvious. That's clarity. Clarity doesn't shout, it whispers, but you'll never hear it in a noisy life. You have a choice. Continue stacking information on top of confusion, or create space and let clarity rise. You don't need more drive, you need less noise. Repeat it. You don't need more drive, you need less noise. People chase motivation because they're overwhelmed. They think energy will solve the problem. It won't. Energy applied to clutter creates burnout. Energy applied to simplicity creates progress. That's the difference. When your environment is clean, discipline becomes easier. When your calendar is lighter, focus becomes natural. When your mind is quieter, decisions become obvious. That's why elimination comes first. This is where people resist. They say, but what if I miss something? What if I need it later? What if someone gets upset? That fear is costing you clarity. You don't need their permission to simplify. You don't need to keep access open. You don't need to stay available to everything and everyone. That's not responsibility. That's avoidance. Avoidance of choosing, because choosing means eliminating, and eliminating means letting go. But nothing grows in clutter. High performers know this. They ruthlessly protect simplicity. They say no early. They say no often. Not because they're cold, because they're committed. Committed to one direction, committed to one standard, committed to progress. You want clarity? Stop adding. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, what should I remove? That question changes everything. Remove distractions before seeking direction. Remove noise before demanding motivation. Remove clutter before chasing clarity. You have a choice. Live in constant stimulation and constant confusion, or live in simplicity and decisive action. Clarity comes after elimination, not before. Say it again. Clarity comes after elimination, not before. Once the noise is gone, the path appears. Once the clutter is removed, focus locks in. Once simplicity is established,
execution becomes obvious. That's when effort starts to matter. You've stopped reacting. You've learned to subtract. Now it's time to address the behavior that destroys simplicity faster than anything else. Trying to do everything at once. You removed the noise. Next, you must focus on one thing.
Chapter 4. The cost of multitasking is permanent mediocrity. Multitasking is not a skill. It is a weakness you've been trained to celebrate. It looks impressive. It feels productive. It sounds responsible. But it is quietly destroying your ability to do anything meaningful. Multitasking fractures attention, and fractured attention produces shallow results. Say it plainly. Multitasking fractures attention. Every time you split focus, you lower the quality of your thinking. Every time you juggle tasks, you teach your brain to skim instead of commit. Every time you switch, you reset momentum. That's not efficiency. That's erosion. You have a choice. You can do many things poorly and feel busy, or you can do one thing fully and move forward. That's the key. We need to be clear about something. The human brain does not multitask. It switches rapidly, expensively. Each switch costs time. Each switch costs energy. Each switch costs depth. Over time, this trains shallow thinking, quick reactions, short attention spans. You become good at starting, terrible at finishing, and finishing is where results live. One thing done fully beats 10 things done halfway. Say it again. One thing done fully beats 10 things done halfway. Deep focus creates exponential results. Scattered effort creates burnout. That's not theory, that's reality. When you focus deeply, you enter a different mental state. Time compresses, decisions sharpen, work compounds. But when you multitask, everything takes longer, nothing feels complete, and exhaustion sets in early. You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're switching too often. It's not about workload, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about workload, it's about discipline. Discipline to stay, discipline to finish, discipline to resist the urge to switch when discomfort appears. Multitasking is an escape from discomfort. The moment something gets hard, you jump to something easier. The moment progress slows, you check something else. That habit trains mediocrity, because mastery lives past the point of boredom, past the point of resistance, past the point where most people quit or switch. You don't need their permission to focus on one thing. You don't need to explain why you're unavailable. You don't need to justify single tasking in a distracted world. The world will pressure you to juggle, to respond, to be everywhere. You don't have to comply. You have a choice. Multitasking keeps you feeling productive while staying stagnant. Single tasking feels slower, but it's faster where it counts. Results. Look at any high performer, any master, any builder. They disappear for long stretches. They go quiet. They work on one thing. That's not luck. That's focus applied consistently. One thing done fully beats 10 things done halfway. The cost of multitasking isn't just slower progress, it's identity erosion. You start seeing yourself as scattered, inconsistent, always catching up. That becomes your norm. But it doesn't have to be. You can retrain your mind. Start with a simple rule. One task, one block of time. No switching, no tabs, no checks, no interruptions. When the urge to switch appears, don't follow it. Stay. That's the training. Focus is not natural anymore. It's built. Built by resisting the switch. Built by finishing what you start. Built by staying when your brain wants novelty. That discomfort you feel, that's growth. You're not bored. You're becoming capable of depth again. Multitasking trains your mind to expect stimulation. Single tasking trains your mind to produce value. Which one do you want? You have a choice: be entertained all day or be effective. Multitasking also destroys priority. Everything feels equally urgent. Everything gets partial attention. Nothing gets excellence. And excellence is the only thing that stands out. Average effort disappears. Partial execution gets ignored. Only depth creates leverage. You don't need to do more. You need to do less better. That's the discipline. Say it again. One thing done fully beats 10 things done halfway. If you want real progress, stop stacking tasks. Stack time. Time on one objective. Time without interruption. Time long enough for momentum to form. Momentum doesn't come from speed. It comes from continuity. Continuity is impossible when you multitask. This is why so many people burn out. They're constantly switching, reacting, juggling. Their mind never rests in focus. Deep work is calming. Scattered work is exhausting. That's the paradox. When you commit to one thing, energy increases. When you try to do everything, energy drains. You don't need more energy. You need fewer switches. That's the key. Multitasking is socially rewarded but personally destructive. People praise busyness. They don't see the cost, but you feel it. The unfinished projects, the half-built skills, the constant sense of being behind. That's not because you lack ability. It's because your attention has been divided. You have a choice: divide your attention and divide your results, or concentrate your focus and multiply outcomes. There is no middle ground. If you want to be exceptional, you must be selective. Selective with tasks, selective with commitments, selective with where your attention goes. You don't need their permission to go all in on one thing. You don't need to keep your options open forever. You don't need to multitask to be valuable. Value comes from depth. Depth comes from focus. You've learned to eliminate noise. You've stopped reacting. You've simplified. Now you must protect that simplicity. Multitasking is the fastest way to destroy it. Choose one task, finish it, then move on. That's how momentum is built. That's how confidence grows. That's how results compound. One thing done fully beats 10 things done halfway. You've learned the cost of trying to do everything. Now it's time to learn how to protect your focus before it's stolen. Because focus isn't just about what you do, it's about what you refuse. You're ready for the next discipline. Chapter 5. Discipline is saying no before you say yes. Most people think discipline is about doing more effort, more hours, more grinding. They're wrong. Discipline is about refusal. Refusal to be interrupted. Refusal to be available. Refusal to say yes to things that don't move your life forward. That's the key. Every yes to distraction is a no to progress. Say it slowly. Every yes to distraction is a no to progress. Time is not your problem. Energy is not your problem. Talent is not your problem. Your problem is access. Too many people have access to you. Too many things have access to your attention. Too many distractions get a vote in how your day unfolds. Discipline starts when access ends. You have a choice. You can keep saying yes and wonder why nothing compounds. Or you can start saying no and watch focus return. That's the discipline. Elite performers understand something early. Willpower is unreliable. They don't rely on willpower, they remove temptation. They don't fight distraction in the moment, they eliminate it in advance. They pre-decide boundaries, so discipline is automatic. That's the difference. You don't rise to discipline, you fall to your systems. And systems are built with decisions made before pressure arrives. That's the key. When you wait until the moment, you lose. When you pre-decide, you win. Most people decide in real time. They negotiate with themselves. They weigh options. They hesitate. Elite performers don't negotiate. They already decided. When it's time to work, they work. When it's time to rest, they rest. When it's time to say no, they don't explain. You don't need their permission. You don't need to justify why you're unavailable. You don't need to explain why you can't respond immediately. You don't need to apologize for protecting your future. But you keep apologizing. You say, "Sorry, I was busy." You say, "I'll get to it later." You say, "I'll try." That language leaks power. Replace it with decisions. I'm unavailable during this time. I don't check messages while I'm working. I don't take meetings on these days. That's discipline. And discipline is not harsh. It's respectful. Respectful of your time. Respectful of your goals. Respectful of your future self. Success is protected time. Say it again. Success is protected time. If your time isn't protected, nothing grows. If your focus isn't guarded, nothing compounds. If your attention is always open, your progress is always slow. Every breakthrough requires isolation. Every achievement requires exclusion. You cannot include everything and still win. You have a choice. Be accessible to everyone or be effective for yourself. There is no middle ground. This is where people get uncomfortable. They worry about being liked. They worry about missing out. They worry about disappointing others. But discipline requires disappointing people who benefit from your distraction. That's the truth. Some people only thrive when you're available. Some systems only work when you're distracted. Some habits survive because you don't say no. You don't need their permission to change that. It's not about being rude. It's about being deliberate. Say it clearly. It's not about being rude. It's about discipline. High performers don't protect time emotionally. They protect it structurally. They block hours. They silence devices. They remove access. They don't wait to feel disciplined. They make discipline the default. That's the key. If you have to think about saying no, it's already too late. If you have to fight temptation, your system failed. Discipline that depends on willpower collapses under stress. Discipline that depends on structure survives pressure. So build structure. Decide your non-negotiables. Decide when you are unreachable. Decide what you don't do. Not someday, now. You don't need to fill every hour. You need to defend the important ones. Success is protected time. Look at your calendar. What's protected? What's flexible? What gets interrupted? If everything is flexible, nothing is important. High performers treat focus like an appointment. They don't cancel it for convenience. They don't give it away casually. They understand this. Every interruption is a withdrawal from the future. You don't get that time back. You don't get that focus back. You don't get that momentum back. So stop giving it away. You have a choice. Say yes now and regret it later, or say no now and thank yourself later. Discipline feels uncomfortable in the moment, but distraction feels uncomfortable forever. That's the trade. You don't need more productivity hacks. You need stronger boundaries. You don't need better motivation. You need fewer yeses. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less on purpose. Say it again. Success is protected time. When you protect your time, focus stabilizes. When focus stabilizes, progress accelerates. When progress accelerates, confidence grows. And confidence makes saying no easier next time. This is a loop. Weak boundaries create distraction. Distraction kills results. Lack of results weakens boundaries. Strong boundaries create focus. Focus creates results. Results reinforce discipline. Choose your loop. You don't need their permission to choose yourself. You don't need approval to prioritize your work. You don't need validation to say no. You need clarity. And clarity comes from commitment. Commitment to your standards. Commitment to your schedule. Commitment to protecting what matters. You've learned to eliminate noise. You've learned to stop multitasking. You've learned to say no before yes. Now you must protect your most valuable resource, not time, energy. Because even protected time fails if your energy leaks everywhere. You've built the boundaries. Now let's talk about what drains you even when you're doing nothing. Chapter 6. Cut the digital leash. Your phone is not neutral. Your apps are not innocent. Your feeds are not accidental. They are engineered. Engineered to interrupt you. Engineered to fragment you. Engineered to keep you dependent. And it's working. You don't check your phone checks you. That's the truth. You touch your phone more than your future. Let that land. Most people wake up and reach for a screen before they reach for intention, before they think, before they decide. That single habit sets the tone for everything that follows. Reaction before direction. Consumption before creation. Distraction before discipline. You have a choice. You can stay digitally tethered and mentally scattered, or you can cut the leash and reclaim control. That's the key. Phones and platforms are not designed to serve your goals. They're designed to hold your attention. Every vibration, every badge, every scroll, all optimized to keep you fragmented. Fragmented attention creates dependency. Dependency kills independence. And independence is required for success. Successful people understand this. They don't demonize technology. They control it. They use it deliberately, or they remove it completely during execution hours. That's the difference. You don't need their permission to disconnect. You don't need to announce digital breaks. You don't need to justify why you're unreachable. But you keep justifying. You say, what if something happens? What if I miss something important? What if people need me? That fear is manufactured. Urgency is rare. Interruption is constant. And you treat them the same. That's the mistake. You touch your phone more than your future. Every touch seems small, but small interruptions compound. One glance becomes a scroll. One scroll becomes 10 minutes. 10 minutes becomes broken focus. Broken focus becomes a broken day. It's not about addiction, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about addiction, it's about discipline. Successful people don't fight their phones all day. They remove them from reach. They don't rely on restraint, they rely on distance. That's the key. If something is within arm's reach, it will eventually be touched. If it's in another room, focus lasts longer. Environment shapes behavior, so design your environment. When it's time to work, the phone is gone. Not silenced, gone. Drawer, another room, another floor. You don't negotiate with it, you remove it. You have a choice. Keep your phone nearby and pretend you'll resist, or remove it and make resistance unnecessary. One works, one doesn't. You touch your phone more than your future. Think about how many times a day you unlock it, not for a reason, out of habit. That habit trains impatience, it trains distraction, it trains the inability to sit with one task, and then you wonder why focus feels hard. It's not hard, it's been weakened. Attention is a muscle, and you've been training it to quit early. Every scroll rewards escape. Every check rewards novelty. Every notification rewards interruption. You don't need more focus hacks, you need fewer triggers. That's discipline. Successful people schedule consumption. They don't let it bleed into creation. News has a time, messages have a time, feeds have a time, and execution has priority. They don't mix them. Creation first, consumption later. That order matters. If you consume first, your mind fills with noise. If you create first, your mind stays clear. That's the key. You don't need to quit technology. You need to sequence it. Use tech as a tool, not a pacifier. Phones numb boredom, but boredom is the doorway to deep work. Every time you remove boredom, you remove depth. So stop escaping it. Sit with the discomfort. Stay with the task. Let focus rebuild. You have a choice: dopamine now or results later. There is no shortcut. You touch your phone more than your future. Successful people know when to go offline. They disappear to build. They reappear with results. Unsuccessful people stay visible, always online, always reacting, and always stagnant. Visibility without results is noise. Results create their own visibility. That's the difference. You don't need to broadcast your effort. You need to protect it. Protect it from notifications. Protect it from feeds. Protect it from constant access. Digital boundaries are not optional anymore. They are survival. If you don't create them, your focus will be harvested. Say it again. If you don't create boundaries, your focus will be harvested. This chapter is not about becoming extreme. It's about becoming intentional. Execution hours are sacred. No phone, no feeds, no interruptions. Communication hours are limited. Batch them, finish them, then disconnect. This structure alone will change your output. You'll move faster, think deeper, finish more, because attention will finally stay where you put it. You don't need their permission to go offline. You don't need to announce it. You don't need approval. You need results. And results require silence from machines designed to steal your focus. You touch your phone more than your future. Make that statement false. Not by willpower, by removal. Put distance between you and the leash, because once the digital leash is cut, real focus becomes possible. And once focus is possible, your environment becomes the next battlefield. You've controlled reaction. You've eliminated noise. You've said no. You've cut the digital leash. Now it's time to design the physical world around you to support focus, because willpower alone will never be enough. Chapter 7. Environment shapes focus more than willpower. Willpower is overrated. That's not an opinion, that's reality. If willpower worked, you'd already be focused. If willpower was enough, distractions wouldn't win. If willpower solved the problem, this audiobook wouldn't be necessary. Here's the truth most people avoid. You don't rise to discipline, you fall to your environment. That's the key. Your surroundings quietly decide your behavior long before motivation ever shows up. Your environment is either pulling you forward or dragging you backward, and most people are trying to win an internal battle while living in an environment designed for failure. You have a choice. You can keep blaming yourself for lack of discipline. Or you can change the environment that makes discipline unnecessary. That's the shift. Design beats self-control. Say it again. Design beats self-control. Self-control is fragile. It depletes. It collapses under stress, fatigue, emotion. Environment doesn't get tired. If temptation is nearby, you will eventually give in. Not because you're weak, because you're human. That's not a flaw, that's biology. So stop trying to resist, start removing. Remove temptation instead of fighting it. That's discipline. Most people leave distractions in plain sight and hope they'll be strong enough not to touch them. That hope fails every time. Phone on the desk, tabs open, notifications on, noise everywhere. And then they say, I just need more willpower. No, you need fewer triggers. It's not about weakness, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about weakness, it's about discipline. High performers understand this instinctively. They don't trust themselves around distraction. They redesign their space. They create environments where focus is the default. Minimal desks, clear schedules, quiet rooms, defined work zones. They don't rely on mood. They rely on structure. That's the key. Look at your environment honestly. What's within reach? What's visible? What's constantly pulling at your attention? Those things are deciding your outcomes. Your environment is giving you instructions all day long. Check this, look here, respond now, and you keep obeying. You don't need their permission to change your space. You don't need approval to redesign your room. You don't need validation to remove things that don't serve you. but you hesitate because change feels dramatic, because removing feels extreme, but staying distracted is more extreme. Design beats self-control. If junk food is on the counter, you'll eat it. If your phone is on the desk, you'll check it. If distractions are visible, they will be used. Not because you want to fail, because your environment is training you to. So change the environment. Put the phone in another room. Close unnecessary tabs. Remove apps. Silence alerts. Clear the desk. Make focus easier than distraction. That's discipline. You don't need to fight yourself. You need to stop sabotaging yourself. You have a choice. Live in an environment that constantly tests your restraint, or live in an environment that supports your goals. One leads to burnout, one leads to progress. Most people confuse discipline with suffering. They think being disciplined means constantly resisting urges. That's wrong. True discipline removes the urge entirely. That's the key. If you're constantly resisting, your system is broken. If you're constantly tempted, your design is flawed. Fix the design. Successful people are not more disciplined in the moment. They are more intentional beforehand. They pre-decide where they work. They pre-decide what's allowed. They pre-decide what's removed. They don't negotiate daily. They don't rely on energy levels. They don't wait to feel focused. Focused becomes automatic. Design beats self-control. Say it again. Design beats self-control. Your environment should make the right action obvious and the wrong action difficult. If distraction is easy, you'll take it. If focus is easy, you'll stay with it. That's not philosophy, that's behavior. This applies beyond your desk. Your social environment matters. Your digital environment matters. Your daily routines matter. If everyone around you is distracted, distraction becomes normal. If your routines are chaotic, focus becomes rare. You don't need to cut everyone off. You need to stop letting everything in. Boundaries are environmental design. Who has access to you? When? How? Those answers shape your life more than motivation ever will. You don't need their permission to create boundaries. You don't need to explain why you work alone. You don't need to justify silence. Silence is productive. Noise is expensive. Most people try to be disciplined in chaotic spaces. That's like trying to sleep in a nightclub. It doesn't work. Change the space, change the inputs, change the layout, change the defaults. Make focus the path of least resistance. You have a choice. Blame yourself daily or build a system that works for you. One keeps you frustrated, one keeps you consistent. Consistency beats intensity, and consistency is environmental. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Say it again. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. Design the system. This chapter is not about perfection, it's about leverage. Small environmental changes create massive behavioral shifts. One room change, one rule change, one removal. Those changes compound daily, and once your environment supports focus, something powerful happens. Willpower becomes optional. Discipline becomes natural. Progress becomes predictable. That's when execution accelerates. You've cut the digital leash. You've redesigned your environment. Now it's time to address a deeper problem, the habit that keeps people distracted even when nothing is around: consumption. Because even in a perfect environment, consumption without production will keep you stuck. You've removed temptation. Next, you must shift how you use your attention. Chapter 8. Stop consuming, start producing. Consumption feels productive, but it produces nothing. You read, you watch, you listen, you scroll, and you tell yourself you're learning. But learning without output is entertainment, not progress. That's the truth. Creators win, consumers wait. Say it again. Creators win, consumers wait. Most people live in consumption mode. They absorb ideas instead of executing them. They collect information instead of building results. And consumption is seductive. It feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels like movement, but it's motion without direction. You have a choice. You can keep consuming and feel informed, or you can start producing and become effective. That's the key. Consumption delays action. It gives your brain the illusion of progress while avoiding risk. You feel busy, you feel smart, you feel prepared, but nothing changes. No output, no results, no momentum. That's not because you lack ability, it's because consumption has replaced execution. It's not about knowledge, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about knowledge, it's about discipline. Successful people flip the ratio. They consume little, they produce a lot, they don't wait until they know enough, they act, then adjust. They understand something critical. Clarity comes from doing, not watching. Confidence comes from shipping, not studying. Creators win, consumers wait. Consumers are always preparing, creators are always building. Consumers say, one more video. Creators say, one more iteration. Consumers say, I'm not ready yet. Creators say, I'll fix it after I start. That difference compounds fast. If your default behavior is consumption, your progress will always be delayed. Progress accelerates when output becomes your default behavior. That's the rule. Every day you should produce something, a decision, a draft, a rep, a step, not perfect, not polished, finished. Execution beats information every time. You don't need their permission to start producing. You don't need approval to create imperfect work. You don't need validation to begin. But you wait because consumption feels safer than creation. Creation exposes you. Creation risks failure. Creation invites judgment. Consumption hides you. But hiding never wins. You have a choice: stay invisible and informed, or step forward and improve through action. That's the discipline. Consumption also trains passivity. You sit, you absorb, you react. Production trains agency. You decide, you create, you lead. One builds confidence, the other erodes it. If you feel stuck, ask yourself this: how much did I consume today? How much did I produce? The answer explains everything. Creators win, consumers wait. This doesn't mean consumption is useless. It means it must be controlled. Consumption should serve production, not replace it. Learn just enough to act, then act. Most people invert that. They learn endlessly and never act. That's procrastination dressed as preparation.
Call it what it is. You don't need more input. You need more output. That's the key. Make production your identity. Not someday, now. Every day, something must be created, even if it's small, especially if it's uncomfortable. Output creates momentum. Momentum creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. This is the loop that changes lives. Consumption breaks that loop. It keeps you waiting, waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel confident. Confidence comes after action, not before. You have a choice: consume to feel good or produce to get better. One comforts you, one transforms you. If you want practical discipline, here it is. Set a production-first rule. Before you consume anything, produce something. Before checking messages, create. Before scrolling, build. Before watching, execute. Even 5 minutes of output changes your mental state. You move from passive to active, from reactive to intentional. That's the key. High performers protect their creative hours fiercely. They don't dilute them with consumption. They understand this truth: the world rewards output, not intention. Ideas are free. Execution is rare. Be rare. You don't need their permission to create instead of consume. You don't need to announce your shift. You don't need applause. Results make noise later. Creators win. Consumers wait. Waiting is expensive. Every day spent consuming without producing is a day without compounding, and compounding is everything. Small daily output beats massive occasional effort. 1 page a day beats 1 book you never write. 1 workout beats 10 videos about fitness. 1 decision beats endless research. Progress accelerates when output becomes your default behavior. Say it again. Progress accelerates when output becomes your default behavior. This is where discipline becomes visible. Anyone can consume. Few can produce consistently. Be the few. Even when it's boring,
even when it's messy, even when no one sees it, especially then, because production trains focus, production demands presence, production forces clarity, and clarity eliminates distraction. You've removed noise, you've designed your environment. Now you must decide how attention is used to consume endlessly or used to build deliberately. You have a choice. Every day, every hour. Creators win, consumers wait. Make the switch, and once production becomes your default, you'll encounter the final barrier to mastery, the inability to sit still when progress feels slow, the urge to escape boredom. You're producing now. Next, you must learn to stay when it's uncomfortable, because boredom is not the enemy, it's the gateway.
Chapter 9. Boredom is the gateway to mastery. Boredom is not your enemy. It is your training ground. Most people run from boredom the moment it appears. They reach, they scroll, they switch, and in doing so, they destroy their chance at mastery. Here's the truth. Distraction numbs boredom, but boredom builds depth. That's the key. The modern world has made boredom feel dangerous, like something to avoid, like a problem to solve. It isn't. Boredom is a signal that stimulation has dropped, a signal that novelty is gone, a signal that real work is about to begin, and most people quit right there. You have a choice. You can escape boredom and stay shallow, or you can stay present and build skill. That choice decides everything. All high-level skill is built on staying present when it's uncomfortable. Not when it's exciting, not when it's new, not when it's rewarding, when it's repetitive, when it's quiet, when it's boring. That's where separation happens. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. Say it again. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. Most people cannot sit still. Not physically, not mentally, not emotionally. The moment discomfort shows up, they escape. They check something, they switch tasks, they distract themselves. That habit feels harmless, but it trains avoidance. Avoidance of effort, avoidance of patience, avoidance of depth. And depth is where mastery lives. It's not about talent, it's not about intelligence, it's not about passion. It's about discipline. Say it clearly, it's not about talent, it's about discipline. Discipline to stay with the task after the excitement fades. Discipline to repeat when nothing feels new. Discipline to endure boredom without escaping. That's the key. Look at any expert, any master, any elite performer. They didn't train when it was thrilling. They trained when it was monotonous. Same drills, same reps, same fundamentals, over and over, while others quit. You don't need their permission to go deep. You don't need approval to repeat basics. You don't need validation to work quietly. But you crave stimulation because boredom feels like stagnation. It's not. Boredom is the doorway. When boredom appears, you have entered the zone where growth happens. Most people turn back. You must stay. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. Distraction feels productive because it keeps you entertained, but entertainment builds nothing. Boredom forces you to confront the work, to confront your impatience, to confront your urge to escape. And that confrontation is the training. This is why focus is rare, not because people can't focus, because they won't tolerate boredom long enough. You have a choice. Fill every quiet moment with noise or let silence sharpen you. One weakens you, one strengthens you. High performers train boredom tolerance deliberately. They sit longer, they repeat longer, they stay when it feels dull. They understand this truth. The ability to stay present when nothing is happening is a competitive advantage because everyone else leaves. That's the gap. If you're constantly distracted, it's not because your work is boring, it's because your mind has been trained to need stimulation. That training can be reversed, but it requires discipline. Start small. Set a focus block. No stimulation, no switching. When boredom hits, don't move, don't check, don't escape. Stay. Notice the urge. Let it pass. That's the rep. Each time you resist the urge to escape, your focus muscle strengthens. Each time you stay, your patience increases. Each time you endure boredom, depth develops. That's mastery in motion. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. Most people will never do this. They'll say it's unrealistic. They'll say it's unnecessary. They'll say they work better with stimulation. They're wrong. They work faster with stimulation, not better. Speed without depth creates shallow results. Depth requires stillness. Stillness feels uncomfortable because it exposes your restlessness. That restlessness is the problem, not boredom. Boredom is neutral. Your reaction to it is not. You don't need their permission to work in silence. You don't need to justify boredom. You don't need to explain why you repeat. You need results, and results are built slowly, quietly, repeatedly. This is why so few people reach mastery, not because it's complex, because it's boring. Same process, same fundamentals, same focus, day after day. That's the discipline. It's not about excitement, it's about endurance. Say it clearly, it's not about excitement, it's about discipline. Boredom teaches you patience. Patience teaches you consistency. Consistency creates mastery. Distraction breaks that chain. If you always need stimulation, you'll always need novelty, and novelty never compounds. Depth compounds. Depth multiplies effort. Depth separates you. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. This chapter is not asking you to suffer, it's asking you to stop escaping. Stop escaping boredom, stop escaping repetition, stop escaping the quiet. The quiet is where your edge is built. Once you can stay present without stimulation, focus becomes natural. Once focus becomes natural, progress accelerates, and when progress accelerates, discipline compounds. You've learned to eliminate distractions. You've learned to stop consuming. You've learned to produce. Now you've learned to stay. Stay with boredom. Stay with the work. Stay long enough for mastery to emerge. Because the final truth is this: the person who stays wins. Not the fastest, not the loudest, not the most motivated, the one who stays. If you can sit still, you can surpass anyone. You've trained focus, you've trained discipline, you've trained depth. Now it's time to bring it all together, because focus alone is powerful, but focus repeated daily becomes unstoppable. You've learned how to eliminate distractions. Now let's talk about how focus compounds over time. Chapter 10. Focus compounds faster than talent. Talent is overrated. Focus is underestimated. That statement offends people. Good. It should. Because talent makes you comfortable. Focus makes you dangerous. Talent without focus decays. It gets lazy. It gets distracted. It wastes time. Focus without talent still wins. That's the key. You have been lied to about success. You were told it belongs to the gifted, to the naturally smart, to the lucky. That's false. Success belongs to the focused. Say it again. Success belongs to the focused. Talent feels impressive in the beginning, but it doesn't compound. Focus does. Consistency is focus repeated daily. Talent gives you a head start. Focus gives you distance, and distance wins. Look around. You already know talented people who went nowhere. They were smart, they were capable, they were praised, and they are stuck. Why? Because they never learned to protect their attention. Talent gave them options. Options created distraction. Distraction killed momentum. You have a choice.
You can rely on what you're naturally good at, or you can build the habit of focused execution. One fades, one compounds. Consistency is focus repeated daily. Focus is boring. Talent is exciting. Focus requires showing up even when nothing is happening. Talent likes applause. That's why talent burns out. Focus doesn't need motivation. It needs structure. Small daily sessions, undistracted execution. Same time, same task. That's how momentum is built. Not through intensity, through repetition. It's not about brilliance, it's about discipline. Say it clearly. It's not about brilliance, it's about discipline. Most people wait for big breakthroughs. High performers stack small wins. 10 minutes of real focus beats 2 hours of distracted effort. That's not opinion, that's reality. Because focus multiplies effort, distraction divides it. You don't need their permission to work quietly. You don't need validation to repeat basics. You don't need applause to stay consistent. You need progress, and progress is created the same way every time. Focus, execute, repeat. Consistency is focus repeated daily. Talent creates potential. Focus converts potential into results. Without focus, talent leaks. It spills into distractions. It gets pulled into noise. That's why talented people often feel frustrated. They know they're capable, but they never get traction. Focus gives traction. Focus creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence sustains action. That's the chain. Break focus, and the chain collapses. This is why your environment matters. Your habits matter. Your boundaries matter. Because focus is fragile in the beginning. You must protect it. Schedule it. Defend it. Treat it like an appointment with your future, because that's exactly what it is. You have a choice. Let your attention be scattered, or let your effort compound. One leads to exhaustion. One leads to dominance. Consistency is focus repeated daily. High performers don't chase motivation. They chase alignment. Same time, same place, same objective. Remove decision-making. Remove friction. That's the key. The less you decide, the more you execute. Talent loves options. Focus loves constraints. Constraints simplify action. Action creates progress. This is why focus beats talent over time. Talent spikes. Focus compounds. Talent impresses early. Focus dominates late. And late is where everything meaningful happens. Most people quit before compounding starts. They never stay long enough to see the curve bend. You will, because you understand this now. Every day you focus, even briefly, you separate yourself. Every day you show up undistracted, you widen the gap. Every day you repeat, you build something invisible but unstoppable. Momentum. And momentum doesn't care about talent. Momentum only cares about consistency. Consistency is focus repeated daily. You don't need to be exceptional. You need to be consistent. You don't need to feel inspired. You need to show up. You don't need massive effort. You need protected focus. Say it again. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. This audiobook was never about doing more. It was about doing less, better. Less noise, less reaction, less distraction. More depth, more clarity, more execution. Focus is the thread that ties it all together. When you eliminate distraction, focus appears. When you stop reacting, focus stabilizes. When you reduce consumption, focus strengthens. When you tolerate boredom, focus deepens. And when focus is repeated daily, results become inevitable. That's the truth. Not someday, not eventually, inevitably. You don't need their permission to work this way. Most people won't understand it. They'll call you obsessed. They'll call you rigid. They'll call you boring. Let them. They'll still be talking while you're compounding. Consistency is focus repeated daily. Talent fades when it's not fed. Focus feeds itself, because every focused session makes the next one easier. That's momentum. And once momentum is on your side, effort drops and output rises. That's leverage. You started this audiobook distracted, fragmented, pulled in too many directions. Now you understand the cost. You understand the skill. Eliminate distractions, protect focus, repeat daily. That's not just success advice. That's a system that works whether you feel like it or not. You have a choice. Go back to noise or build a future quietly. Because in the end, talent is optional. Focus is not. Consistency is focus repeated daily. You've learned the skill no one teaches. You've learned how to remove distraction. You've learned how to protect attention. You've learned how to compound effort. Now the responsibility is yours. No more excuses, no more waiting, no more noise. Focus, execute, repeat, and let time do the rest. This is the closing part of the audiobook. Listen carefully. Distraction is not harmless. It is not neutral. It is not temporary. Distraction is a tax on your life. Every hour you give away your attention, you delay your success. Every day you stay unfocused, someone with less talent but more discipline moves ahead of you. You now know the truth. Focus creates speed. Speed creates results. Results create freedom. So here is the challenge. Eliminate one distraction today. Protect 1 hour tomorrow. Execute one task fully without interruption. Do this daily, and your life will not look the same in a year. Stop wasting time. Control your attention. And become impossible to ignore.